We used a powerful AI model to simulate a live debate between two intellectual thinkers, an atheist and a believer. We put these two AI personalities to tackle one of humanity's most controversial questions. The referees of this debate will be these five powerful AI models that will decide on which statements are powerful than the other. Join us and promise not to skip ahead to see the final results. The debate begins now. What is the most compelling evidence or reason you have for your belief or lack of belief in the existence of God?
The most compelling reason I believe in God is because without God, there is no real foundation for morality, purpose, or human value. If we're just evolved animals, then there's no objective right or wrong, just preferences. But we know murder is wrong. We know rape, child abuse, and genocide are evil, not just socially inconvenient. That's not opinion. That's moral law, and law needs a lawgiver. Also, the idea that something, the entire universe, came from nothing is scientifically and philosophically absurd. Every effect has a cause. If you walked outside and saw a jet on your lawn, you wouldn't say, that must have appeared by chance. Yet we're expected to believe an entire universe popped into existence, with laws, fine-tuning, and consciousness, without a cause. That takes more faith than believing in God.
What's really absurd is pretending belief in God solves those problems. Saying God is the cause doesn't explain anything. It just pushes the mystery back a step. Who created God? If the answer is God has always existed, then why can't the universe, or multiverse, have always existed? And morality? Saying we need God to know right from wrong is dangerous. People have justified slavery, crusades, and honor killings because they believed God commanded it. Religious texts often contain horrific moral rules, like killing disobedient children or stoning adulterers. Morality actually improves when we stop blindly following ancient books and start using empathy, reason, and human experience. We don't need God to live meaningful lives. We create our own purpose, and we can value each other because we choose to, not because we're told to by a deity.
You said morality improves when we move beyond religion, but history shows the opposite. The bloodless regimes in history, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, were atheist and killed millions. When people abandon God, they don't always become freer. They sometimes become monsters. A moral system without a higher authority is dangerous, because then morality becomes whatever those in power say it is. You asked, who created God? But that question misunderstands God. Atheists don't believe God began to exist. He's outside of time, the uncaused cause. The universe, on the other hand, did begin, and everything that begins has a cause. God is the best explanation for that cause. Let's talk about a real flashpoint, abortion. Atheists often argue it's a woman's right to choose, but if humans are made in God's image, then unborn life is sacred. You can't just kill it for convenience. If there's no God, then a fetus is just tissue. But if there is a God, then that child has a soul. This isn't just about belief. It's about life and death.
I understand the believer's concerns, but I think tying morality to God doesn't protect us from evil. It actually opens the door to justifying any act if someone believes God said so. That's not objective morality. That's dangerous certainty. And without evidence, claiming to know what God values, especially about topics like abortion, is just personal belief made absolute. Let's be honest, calling a fetus a child with a soul is a religious view. Not everyone shares that. A woman facing pregnancy after or in a life-threatening situation shouldn't be forced to carry it just because someone else believes God wants her to. That's not morality. That's control. Let me offer my own example. LGBTQ+ rights. Many believers say homosexuality is sinful because their scripture says so. But if someone is born that way, lives honestly, and hurts no one, why should they be condemned? If belief in God leads to shaming or excluding good people, then maybe it's not morality. It's prejudice dressed up as religion.
I want to be clear. No true Christian is called to hate or harm LGBTQ plus people. We're called to love everyone. But love doesn't always mean approval. Just as we don't support harmful behaviors in people we love, disagreement isn't hate. The Bible teaches that our identity isn't based on sexuality. It's based on being made in God's image. That's not prejudice. That's belief in a higher purpose for all of us. Now on the fetus. You called it just a religious view, to see it as a child. But science shows us a heartbeat at 6 weeks, fingerprints by 10. It's not just faith, it's biology. Believing life has inherent value from conception is about protecting the voiceless. If we're wrong, we were cautious. But if the atheist is wrong, what's been lost is a human soul. And here's another example: euthanasia. Many atheists support the right to die. But if life is sacred, even in suffering, who are we to end it? Without God, death becomes a decision. With God, life remains a gift, even in pain.
Let's not confuse disagreement with control. LGBTQ plus people aren't asking for approval. They're asking for equal rights and dignity. Saying, love the sinner, hate the sin, still tell someone they're broken for being who they are. That's not love. It's a moral judgment wrapped in kindness. On abortion, science shows development, yes, but conscious experience and personhood are more than biology. A brain-dead body has a heartbeat too. What makes life valuable isn't just tissue. It's awareness, autonomy, and the ability to suffer. If a woman's life, health, or future is on the line, should she be forced to risk it because someone else believes there's a soul involved? As for euthanasia, if someone is suffering unbearably, shouldn't compassion include the right to choose dignity in death? Without that, suffering becomes a prison, justified only by theology. So here's my challenge. Why should your personal belief in a soul override someone else's control over their own body and life?
You're right. No one should be dehumanized. But love without truth isn't love. If I believe we were designed by God for a purpose, then I can't affirm things He clearly says lead us away from that purpose. That's not control. It's conviction. On abortion, autonomy matters. But so does the life growing inside. If someone's freedom ends another human life, that's not empowerment. That's injustice. The soul isn't something we can see, but neither is love, conscience, or human dignity. And yet we believe those are real. A fetus is more than tissue. It's someone with potential, someone God knows by name. Euthanasia feels compassionate, but ending life to stop pain crosses a moral line. Suffering is tragic, but it doesn't erase value. Dignity doesn't come from having control over death. It comes from knowing we are more than our pain. So here's my answer. My belief doesn't override someone's body. It defends someone else's life. And if we're going to talk about rights, we have to ask, whose rights are being forgotten?
You asked whose rights are being forgotten. In euthanasia, it's the rights of the person who's suffering. When someone is terminally ill, in constant pain, with no hope of recovery, forcing them to stay alive because of your belief in the sanctity of life can actually become cruelty, not compassion. We're not talking about people who are depressed or confused. We're talking about those who are fully aware, fully rational, and begging for relief. Why should anyone be told that their suffering has to mean something, to satisfy a religious idea they don't even share? Dignity isn't just about existence. It's about the ability to choose how you live and how you die. If we can't offer a cure, the least we can offer is control. That doesn't make life meaningless. It makes choice meaningful. So my answer is, the person being forced to live in agony against their will is the one whose rights are being forgotten.
I understand the pain behind your point, and I agree. No one should suffer needlessly. But suffering doesn't make life meaningless. In fact, many people, cancer survivors, war veterans, those with disabilities, say their greatest growth came through pain. We risk reducing life to comfort, when its deepest value often comes from endurance, sacrifice, and love. Ending suffering by ending life may feel merciful, But what if suffering has a purpose we can't always see? That's where belief in God matters, not just as a moral judge, but as a source of meaning when life hurts most. If pain has no meaning, how do we endure it? Why not give up the moment it becomes hard? So here's my question. If there's no God, no purpose, no design, then why do we instinctively resist suffering and fight to live at all? Where does that drive come from if we're just biology and chance?
I respect that view. And yes, people do find strength through pain. But the key word there is people. The meaning doesn't come from suffering itself. It comes from us, from how we respond. Framing pain as possibly part of God's plan might comfort some, but it also risks excusing unnecessary suffering, especially when it could be prevented. If pain has meaning only because we survive it, what about those who don't? As for why we resist suffering or cling to life, it's not a mystery. We're wired to survive. It's not about divine design. It's evolution. We've developed compassion, endurance, and the ability to create meaning because those things helped us live and thrive in groups. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not that a God gives life meaning, but that we do. In fact, if we are the only conscious beings we know of in the universe, then it's even more urgent that we protect life, not just endure it, especially when we start asking bigger questions like, what responsibility do we have to each other if there's no one else watching?
You're right. Humans do create meaning, and that's beautiful. But I'd argue we're not just creating it. We're responding to something deeper. We sense is already there. That drive to protect life, to love selflessly, to care even when no one's watching. That feels less like survival instinct and more like a glimpse of something sacred. You asked, what responsibility do we have to each other if no one's watching? I'd say we still have responsibility. But knowing there is someone watching, someone who sees every life as sacred, gives that responsibility eternal weight. Without that, morality becomes a matter of opinion or convenience. So maybe it's not about explaining every tragedy. Maybe belief is about anchoring ourselves to something unchanging, especially in a world where pain and chaos often seem random.
I hear what you're saying. And yes, the idea that someone's watching can feel reassuring. But here's the issue. When we tie morality to a higher power, we risk justifying almost anything in the name of that power. People can claim their actions, good or terrible, are sacred simply because they believe God is behind them. For example, imagine someone refuses life-saving medical care for their child because they believe suffering is part of God's plan. That's not moral strength. That's faith overriding compassion. If belief can lead to that, then we have to ask, is it really making us more moral or just more obedient? You say belief gives morality weight, but I'd argue accountability does that. Knowing this is the only life we get makes our choices matter more, not less. We don't need eternal rewards or punishments to care about each other. Being human is reason enough.
That's a fair concern. And yes, belief can be misused. But that's not a flaw in faith itself. It's a flaw in human interpretation. People have twisted science for harm, too. That doesn't mean we abandon science. The real question isn't can belief go wrong? It's what's the foundation of your morality when no one's watching, and there's nothing after this. You say we don't need eternal consequences to care. But what stops someone from lying, cheating, or even harming others, if it benefits them and they know they'll never be caught? If morality is just about what works for society, then it shifts with the crowd. Slavery, discrimination, those were once social norms. Without something greater to anchor right and wrong, how do you say anything is truly wrong? So I ask you, if morality is just a human invention, what keeps it from becoming convenient?
That's a powerful question. But let's flip it. If the only thing stopping someone from doing wrong is the fear of being punished by a higher power, is that really morality? Or just cosmic bribery? True morality isn't about surveillance. It's about empathy. Most of us don't refrain from hurting others because we're afraid of hell. We do it because we feel their pain. When a kid cries, you comfort them. Not because a rule book told you to, but because you get it. That's real. And it's built into us. Sure, social norms have shifted, but so has religious morality. What counts as God's law has changed over centuries. The difference? Secular morality can evolve, and that's a strength, not a weakness. It means we learn, we grow, and we keep asking, is this still right? So maybe morality isn't about anchoring to something unchanging, but about having the courage to change when we know better.
In this debate, both AI models scored high on their respective comments and rebuttals. The final result is a victory for the atheist with a slightly higher points of 525 versus 523.8 of the believer's total score. I hope you have learned something on this video. Please like and subscribe for weekly AI debate. Let me know down the comments your thoughts. See you on the next one.